Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the CCA Rhapsody. This is the latest IEM from CCA, a 2+4 hybrid, two 8mm drivers, one running the bass, one running the mids, and four BAs 31736 running the taking care of the high frequency. It's got the tuning switches going, which affect the bass and the mids and the highs, obviously, and then all of that put into a nice shell. It's a really nice shell, a little bit on the bigger side, kind of the AS24 size, and Thieaudio as well, kind of size. But it's a nicely built shell. It looks the part, it looks the business. It's metal, it's not overly weighty or heavy, it's got just the right weight, and although it's big, at least in my ears it fits perfectly. I'm not using the stock accessories as you've seen. I'm using KB Ear 07, the cyan colored tips, which are the medium sized ones, and I'm using an IVPIQ cable, which is one of the cables that I like using, this particular model. It just looks the part. It really looks the part. And sorry about that. What more can I tell you about the Rhapsody? Well, I can tell you lots. Straight away, I can tell you that it's probably one of the best IEMs that they have made. In terms of hybrids, it's definitely the best IEM. In terms of hybrids, if you guys follow me, you know that I've always been a very big fan of the HM20. I think the HM20 is kind of like the hybrid that never got that much love, but the reality is it wasn't the ZAR and it wasn't the Z80 that were able to beat it, in my opinion. So the HM20 was the best hybrid for me that they had, followed then by the ZS10 Pro X, and then the ZVX, the ZE, what was it? I forget now, the OnePlus 6 that they had before the ZAS. It was the ZEX, I believe. Anyway, it's unimportant. The reality is that CCA have launched several hybrids, but the best one, unquestionably, the best one is this one. Why? Well, simple. Not only is the driver coherence here being done perfectly, but the versatility of the switches and how those switches are interacting with that driver coherence to give us very distinct types of sound is absolutely flawless. I mean, if this, instead of saying CCA Rhapsody here, said, for the sake of argument, Thruthears, QEars, said Thieaudio, said Moondrop, said a number of other brands, I am absolutely sure that a number of things would happen. First of all, the price wouldn't be this. The price would be probably $200 or $250. I am absolutely sure about that. That's the first thing. Maybe not with QEars and Thruthears, because they are kind of trying to be more budget orientated. But if this said Moondrop, this would easily be $200+, easily. Okay, and then the fact that people know it's a CCA and KZ, many people automatically, because of unfortunately some issues that have happened over the last couple of months, they don't even give it a chance, and they start criticizing even before listening, and that's it's actually quite a pity. So if this had another brand associated with it, everybody would be screaming at the top of their voice that this is the best, and everybody would be shilling it and so on. But nevertheless, if I do it, or a few others which actually are able to be unbiased with regards to certain aspects do it, we are automatically called shills and we're making money out of the company. Well, that's not the case with me, at least. What I can tell you is that I've listened for the Rhapsody now for about a week since I got it. I've been comparing it with a number of other IEMs that I have, and contrary to what maybe has been a little bit their policy rather, which was to launch a particular IEM and say that it was as good as this IEM from that brand or as good as that IEM from that brand, I think that CCA this time was intelligent in not saying any of that. They took the smart move, and when I listened to it the first time, I was so impressed that automatically, I didn't even bother with wanting to fetch other IEMs from KZ or from CCA, or other cheaper IEMs to compare it with. I didn't even the Zero, for example, the Clinical Red Zero, or the original order, the Red. I was one of the last IEMs that I actually took out to listen to compare it to this, because I was so impressed by what I was listening. So automatically, what I took out after listening to this, I'll be honest, was the Tanchjim cutter. And then I got the Thruthears out as well. I got then the Performer 5, got the Chopin, and then I started even going higher in price. I went to the Thieaudio Hype 2, the Penon Dome, the Mangird Top, and even the Moonlight Ultra. And the reason why I started going to these IEMs was it was being able to do its job in terms of being fun, being balanced, having the right amount of detail, not being splashy or aggressive in the highs, having a nice controlled bass. It was ticking all the right boxes, and especially for me, the box that is one of the most important boxes is how is it sounding in terms of its timbre and its tonality, and is it fun, is it engaging? And that box was massive tick. Obviously timbre and tonality I know is a very particular thing, but the fun factor I think is something which can be generalized, and we can automatically listen to an IEM and say, okay, this is fun, or this is boring, or very clinical, or over sterile. And if there's one thing that this IEM is not, is sterile, irrespective of whatever selection of the switches you use. And in essence, what those switches do is they basically always leave the above 1K more or less with the same sort of response. What they change is then how the bass is, how that tuck is done, because this has got a tuck style bass, and is that tuck happening at 200 or happening at later 300, so giving more or less mid bass into the equation, and that energy level in relation to what we have in terms of the mids and highs. When I show you the graphs, you'll see what I mean. And I don't know what sort of honesty, KZ gets such criticism, but we have to give them credit when it's due, guys. I mean, they are tireless, irrespective of the fact that they might launch IEMs which are almost the same tuning. The guys there, the engineers, they are all working overtime, and whoever was involved with doing this and doing the Polaris, and perhaps even doing the Castor, I think it's probably the same person. That gentleman is, in my opinion, a very good tuner, because he must be listening definitely to the feedbacks that people are giving on those IEMs. And on this, on the Rhapsody, he, in my opinion, has hit the nail on the head in everything. Okay, depending on how you, like I said, adjust the switches, you get a sound that will remind you of the Penon Dome or the Mangird, or you will get a sound that reminds you more of the Chopin, more of the Nova. Honestly, well done. Seriously, congratulations to the gentleman. Well done. Anyway, let me start breaking this down a little bit more. If you listen to it in the 000 settings, so all the switches down, you have this thick bass. It has a bit of a roll off into the sub bass, but it's really not that noticeable. At least I didn't notice it. And that balance between that and the mids and the highs is such that you get a kind of a more warmish, more lush sound. Then by starting to introduce the other switches, the 1000 switch, I didn't see really much difference, and graphically as well you don't. With the 1 switch on, which is the two bass switches emphasized, what it does is instead of there being a roll off, it actually extends a little bit deeper and lowers ever so slightly the mid bass, but it still is doing that tuck later on, and it somehow changes, not dramatically, but it gives the sound a little extra touch of elegance. I think that's probably the best word. If you then go the opposite way and you go 0011, for example, which is supposedly boosting the highs, the mids and the highs, what happens in essence is it actually drops the bass. So there's an emphasis on it being more mid-focused, more vocal-focused, okay? And yes, that tuck happens early on. You lose a bit of that mid-bass slam, but somehow again, the sound that's given to us is not a sound which is in any way aggressive, harsh, at least in my opinion. Not harsh, not aggressive. It sounds plenty detailed. A song like, for example, from Pete Velasco, Deeper, in that setting, it still sounds amazing. Fair enough. I will give it to you. In the all the switches 0, that song sounds phenomenal. It sounds phenomenal. It's got that bass weight that it should have. But even on this setting, which lowers the bass significantly, it still sounds very, very good. And consequently, even on the setting which all the switches are on, which still maintains the bass a little bit more controlled, it is probably, well, that one and I think the 1100, the 1100 and all the switches up, those are my two favorite settings. And the majority of the music that I listen to, I just oscillated between those two settings. It sounds phenomenal. I mean, honestly, it sounds really good. I was not believing that I was hearing an IEM which was $50, to be honest. You know, I just wasn't. The quality, the quickness of the bass, how it's able to be resolving, but have the nice weight, they have the right amount of weight and presence. The transition into the mids, which is faultless. Male vocals and female vocals come across exceptional. I mean, mustn't forget, again, please, not forget what we're talking about in terms of price, okay? It comes across exceptional. And then the high is always in the right amount. Fair enough, in the setting where everything is, or in the setting where we are pronouncing the bass, it sounds a little bit less detailed, but the difference is never, day and night. If anything, in the settings where we have 1100, what we get is a upper mids and treble, which are smoother sounding, more delicate, okay? While if we have those two switches up, we get a little bit extra resolution, a little bit extra detail, a little bit more twinklies and sparklies, but never to the point where you say, oh, okay, the B8 timbre is bothering me, or the B8 timbre is being a nuisance. No, never. If there's one thing I can confidently say, was that I could pick up on it occasionally, but there was never a time where I said, no, I don't like it now, it's bugging me, or it's bothering me, or I need to lower the volume. If anything, I was actually cranking it up. Maybe I'm becoming deaf, so that's why I wanted to just give it more. But honestly, fantastic. I will say that I did a lot of listening with the with the new Colorfly DAC connected, dongle DAC connected up to my NX7. With this particular dongle, it's honestly, it matches it very nicely. Also the same thing with the Cayenne, the RU7. Also the same thing with the Awun Yuki. But this one surprised me because it's on the cheaper side comparatively to those other two that I just mentioned. It's half the price, less than half the price. And it's this implementation of the 4493 from AKM, very, very nice. Up to now, I was usually using the UA2, if I'm not mistaken, the Shanling, which also has the same UA2 or UA3, I don't remember now, sorry. That also uses the same 4493, and the implementation here is been better executed. And the match, this match here, this perfect. I mean, honestly, perfect. Anyway, guys, let's just then run a quick comparison with these IEMs. Okay, let me start by saying here that there's no winners, there's no losers. Okay, so that everything is perfectly clear, and I don't get called out by this and that and blah blah blah. It's a question here of what you're getting for your money, and how close this can come to some of these IEMs, or how not close it can come to these IEMs. Okay, depending on the settings that I put on the switches, I can get them to sound more like some, less like the others. Okay, I'm gonna start here with the Nova, and if I compare the Nova, which is more on the relaxed, more on the smoother side, if I compare it with the setting here of 0011, or even the 1111 setting, the all switches up setting, which was the one that I actually did most of the comparisons with, to be honest, the biggest difference that you will find here is that the Nova, by the fact that it's a little bit more tame in terms of its energy levels, or its overall energy levels, is smoother. That's it. That's the biggest difference that you will find. Otherwise, if I'm purely assessing, the engagement factor, how fun one is and how fun the other is, this is a winner. This is the winner, outright winner. It's hard for me to sit here now and try and tell you that this has got 3 times the worth of this IM. It's hard, because that's the reality. It's hard. The choice here will be a choice down to, well, you just like the Thruthears Nova more because you're a fan of Thruthears, which is more than fair. You like the accessories package more because it is a better accessories package. But if I actually have to take away the accessories that the Nova brings, and I have to compare IEM with IEM in terms of build, they are identical, honestly. Okay, this is a resin shell, but it's not there that I'm going to see anything that justifies the price difference. Cable, fair enough, it's got a better cable. But like I was saying, build, no. And in terms of sound, the sound is just more, just a smidge more polished. That's all. That's all I really get. In terms of bass, this actually beats this in any of the settings with more pronounced bass, less pronounced bass. The bass here is better quality, more quantity than in the Nova. So in terms of the bass, this is actually the winner. In terms of the mids and the highs, very close call, and it's just extra smoothness that you get here. Okay, what I say about the Nova very much applies itself to the Cara, in that the Cara, yes, has very good mids and very good highs, very smooth, very relaxed, probably more realistic in terms of the mids and the highs than the Rhapsodies, even with the setting where that part of the spectrum isn't emphasized. So if I was to make the most fair comparison, yeah, again, I would probably say the one that gives me the same sort of balance is probably the setting where I have 0011. But even in that setting, the bass here always sounds just that little extra more dynamic, a little bit more alive than on the Cara. And this is, again, a big thing for the Rhapsody, because if you guys follow me, you know that I recommend the Cara. I think the Cara is a phenomenal IEM. For the $160 roughly that it costs, it is a phenomenal IEM. But you look at the shell, for example, of the Cara, okay, and you compare it to the shell of the Rhapsody, taking, putting size aside, this actually looks cheaper. The Cara looks more cheaply built than does the Rhapsody. The Rhapsody does look more the part, okay? And in sound, again, it's the same situation. The only thing here that the Cara offers is just a little extra smoothness in the mids and in the highs. But very, very, very minor differences. Technically, even, I would say that this is superior to the Cara. And technically, compared to the Nova, very equal. The Nova does not beat the Cara, the Rhapsody, outright in terms of its technical capabilities. Compared here to the Performer 5, and I've got here the Performer 5 because it is one of the references in terms of 1+4 hybrid under $200, and it's not so much because of the tuning, because the tuning here of the Rhapsody is kind of, well, very identical to the tuning of the Cara because it's got that tucked bass. Also a lot of similarities here with the Nova, but with regards to the tuning of the Performer 5, Performer 5's got more that gliding style of bass. So tuning wise, they're very different. However, if I use the all switches up setting, I get a very similar vibe here going. And honestly, bass-wise, again, the Rhapsody takes it. In my opinion, the Rhapsody takes it. It is just in the mids and in the highs where there's instances where the Aful is just beating more the Rhapsody. But to be honest, any one of these three up to now, they are very, very close. Very close. You will not see huge day and night differences which will justify you guys say, oh, but okay, the value is more because it's got a better shell. That's a tough one to justify, honestly. And then compared here to finally with the Chopin, which is the last of these cheaper IEMs that I selected, it's again very much the same situation as with the Performer 5. However, at certain volume levels, I will say that the bass here does have just a little extra quality. Not the quantity, but just a little extra quality. In terms of mids and highs, this here is not only more polished, but more detailed. And it's just down mainly to the tuning that you get, okay? It's been tuned for detailed retrieval and resolution to be its forte, and it is, okay? So it is definitely this. I would even say that a very solid upgrade from the Polaris, a very solid upgrade would be the Chopin. Very solid. because the only thing that the Chopin is not going to be able to do as well as the Rhapsody is in terms of the bass quantity, but in terms of overall sound, they have got a very, very similar vibe, surprisingly. Just this here is again more, and I guess that's the main thing. When you're buying something more expensive, what you are paying for is supposedly an extra build quality, supposedly better accessories that come with it, and supposedly you get a sound which is more polished. You get drivers which are implemented better. There's not so much that sensation of separation between drivers. Everything sounds as one and coming from a single point, and not that you feel that the highs are coming from this driver, the mids are coming from this one, and the lows are coming from that one. So that's what you get when you pay more money for an IEM, is basically driver, the coherence. Everything sounds more as one. Okay. Compare then here to the four more expensive ones. Straight away here with the Hype 2. Bass wise, fine. The Hype 2 takes the cake. Well, it's got two 10mm drivers, so it should. But surprisingly, in terms of the mids and the transition from the mids to the highs, I actually saw myself liking more the Rhapsody quite a few times. Maybe it's just me. I'm not going to deny it. But I actually found that this was more correct. Okay, and also the fact that that area there between 5 and 7, 4.5 and 7 more or less on here is a little bit extra pronounced as compared to here. I prefer this extra smoothness here, this more laid back, more chilled out presentation of that part of the upper mids and treble. Okay, but yes, the Hype 2 is a better IEM. Does it justify it costing 6 times more? Again, a very hard one to say. I mean, this will definitely, in the right setting of the switches, and I would say probably, let me see now, probably the setting which approximates itself more is probably the all switches up. This again is another solid upgrade over the Rhapsody. So if you have the Rhapsody, or if you can't afford the Hype 2, but you want to get a vibe of the Hype 2, the Rhapsody is definitely the item that will give you that vibe. Okay. Compared here to the Penon Dome, the setting here which approximates itself the most is the setting where we have either 1100 or 0000. Okay. I would even say perhaps even more the 1100 setting. So both are warmish sounding, but neither of them are, let's say, ultimate detailed retrieval, ultimate soundstage, ultimate imaging, masters. They're not the IEM, although it has very, very good technicalities for its price. That's not where I think its main focus has been placed. I think the main focus that's been placed is finding a good balance between that, yes, being technically proficient, and being fun and coherent. And there's a lot of similar vibes here. And again, my only thing that I can say is, does this justify $320 over $50 just outright? Is it a better? Questionable, very, very questionable. Not wanting to sound like I'm over enthusiastic about the Rhapsody, but the Rhapsody has been like a few other IEMs before it. Is an IEM that is kind of going to cause a lot of problems, because if I now stand here and say that no, this is outright a better IEM than the Rhapsody and so on and so forth, I'm not being fair. I'm not doing justice neither to the Dome, and I'm not doing justice either to the Rhapsody. Okay. What I will say, and like I said in the beginning when I started doing comparisons, is what's the ratio between value, performance, and how they stack up against each other. And again, when you listen to something like this, okay, and once you've played around with the setting that allows you to play around with, because the reality is this, in terms of adjustability of sound, it's the most versatile of any one of the IEMs. Yeah, not even the Yanyin, the Ultra, has got that adjustability as this. So if I'm looking at purely in what sorts of signatures I can get out of this compared to the others, this is a winner straight away. And then when I start comparing it in the signature that I prefer the most, to the others here, yes, ultimately you can pick up on some of them being better here, better there, but the biggest difference always is how a little bit extra smoother they are. And not on all songs, on some songs. and not with all genres of music, on some genres of music. And that's what then will be the justification for you to pay out that extra amount of money. So for a person to buy a dome over this, it's a difficult one for me to stand here with a poker face and say, no, get the dome because the dome is definitely better. It's a difficult one. That's why I always tell you guys, try and listen, because I'm sure there were people that will listen to the Rhapsody and will say, this thing sounds like garbage. Okay. Mangird top. Again, depending on the switch settings that you get, that you do here, you can get a very similar sound. And the difference here between these two, I find, is the overall quality in the whole range. If, for example, on here, on the Nova, the Cara, the Performer 5 and the Chopin, the biggest differences was mainly in the mids and the highs as compared to the Rhapsody in terms of the quality. Okay. The polish that these offer extra. Okay. Although in the case of the bass quality there in the Chopin, I mentioned that bass quality there is superior than here. Okay, it's the quantity that stays behind. When we enter this part of the spectrum here, the bass quality and quantity also start becoming factors, and the Hype 2 has got better quality and more quantity than this. It actually is probably the only one out of all of these that in terms of the mids, it was the one that I actually preferred this one over a little more times than none. Compared to the Penon, again, the bass, you notice it's a better quality bass. It's got monstrous quantities of it as well. The mids are better. They are better, but not by a huge difference. Here, the Mangird top is probably, out of all the IMs, Ultra included, the Yanyin Ultra included, the one that really you can, okay, this is the Ultra, and if you listen to it carefully and you are used to the songs that you like listening to, like I am, you can pick up on it without that much of a problem. I mean, remember, for example, this from Joel Culpepper. This particular song is a very energetic song. It's got a lot going on, and obviously, having so much going on, will be able to showcase an IEM's ability to resolve and to do excellent imaging and separate everything nicely. And this does a commendable job. I'm not going to deny it, but this does it really well. From his voice to all the instruments involved, the slam of the bass, the top does it, next level. It kind of is a reason to justify why it costs $500+. Now, is that still enough for me to say, oh, it's 10 times more than the Rhapsody? Does it have 10 times more the performance? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That's the reality. It doesn't. But the top, yes, across the board, it's a better IM, from the bass to the high frequencies. Everything just comes, the bass especially, it's got that nice, it's got that solid thump. It's really, really well done there. And then finally, the Ultra. And the Ultra, again, very much the same situation as the top. Across the board, everything is fantastic. A little bit less mid-bass slam than this, yeah. But everything, and especially the upper mids and highs on the Ultra, are very, very good. I mean, ESTs are there, so it has to have that extra super cleanliness in the highs, and it does have it. Okay, fair enough. The price is now, during these sales and the Black Friday, has been down to $1,000. Is it got enough to justify 20 times the price of the Rhapsody? Honestly, no. And I mentioned it in my review. I think the biggest obstacle of the Ultra's success is the fact that it was based on the original Moonlight, which was $580 to $650, depending if it was the Moonlight or the Mahina. And this should have been centered around the same price. Like I said, $700, $750, absolute maximum. The idea would have even been for it to have been priced the same as the Mahina, for example, $650. That would have been perfect. And then okay, you can start making some more arguments for justifying the price differences. Because sonically, honestly, there isn't 20 times the IEM there. There isn't. Okay? So there you have it, guys. I know I'll be probably subjected to some criticism because of all the positive words I'm saying about the Rhapsody. But it's worth it. That's the truth. The Rhapsody is worth every single one of those words. Not only does it sound good, engaging, fun, but technically it's still capable. I mean, the soundstage is plenty wide, got good height, good depth, good width, excellent width actually. Imaging spot on, unless there's a track which is a little bit more complicated, like the track I was just mentioning now. Yeah, remember, for the majority of the time, I mean, it was just fine. It was no issues. Even stuff like, for example, symbolic or trip trap, very nice. I mean, it does it very there. That's one of the songs that is perfect to understand or to pick up on that ability to be resolving and imaging and separation. So very good. Trust me, very good. Actually, a lot of the songs from Symbolism are good for that. Another one is as well. Let me just see here. From Symbolism or from Symbolico, sorry. Trip Trap is good. The other one is, I'm trying to find it here. The other one, which is very good, which I listen to it quite often, is Elephant from Carol Duboc. It's not but again, this does it very good. Where is it? Symbolico. Whenever you want something, you can never find it. The usual, of course. Symbolico. I'm trying to find it here. Anyway, not important. Guys, I'll show you another graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the CCA Rhapsody. Okay, let me just take away some of these graphs so we can start seeing things a little bit more clearer. Okay, this is the Rhapsody, at least my Rhapsody, in the 0000 setting. So all the switches down. Okay, all the switches down. This is what I got. This is what I measured. Everything sits within roughly 10 dBs. I've seen some reviewers where they mentioned everything sitting within more or less a 6 dB window in terms of the bass. Well, not my one at least. Everything sits actually with the 00 setting. To be honest with you, it's not even 10 dBs. It's actually 11 dBs. Okay, at least for the bass. For the mids and upper mids, yes, it's 10 dBs. So yes, kind of a V-shaped kind of harmonish interpretation, I guess you could say. This is the graph that I get not with the stock tips, but the graph I get with the 07 Cyan tips. It actually helps out a lot in terms of the sound stage and giving it more that sensation of space and so on. With the first switch on, it basically keeps itself the same. It's the same, okay? With the first two switches on, then we have a small change here where we lose a smidge in the mid bass, we gain a little bit in the sub bass, but the rest maintains itself the same. Okay. Then the next setting which I'm going to show you is the setting where we have the first two switches off, well, so they maintained off, but I've boosted the first two switches. So as you can see, what basically that has done is just drop the level of the bass. It's basically the same curve as all the switches down setting, but it's just dropped that energy. And this gives me a more open, more detailed sound comparatively. And then if I put all switches up, and let me just actually leave the previous one there before. What I do get is basically the same thing. It's just that shift from losing a little bit of mid bass, going for more sub bass. Also, if you notice carefully, depending on where or what the switch settings are, we either get things which are having a tuck around the 200 or a tuck around 300, even more so in the all switches down setting. That tuck happens at closer to 400 hertz actually. So we either get a later tuck or an earlier tuck, 200, 250, 400, 400 maybe something, with the biggest change being the energy that we have in the mid bass, okay, in the slam. So I did most of my listening, in either this setup, which is the 1100, okay, so I have more emphasis on the mid bass or less emphasis on the mid bass. So I've got more emphasis on the mid bass, and if you look carefully, it's skewed more towards the bass. So I've got the bass as being the prominent part of the frequency of the response, or then all switches up, which is low, basically keeps the same sort of curve but lowers it everything. So I've got a little bit extra mid bass, and that's it. So these are the two listening modes that I listen to the Rhapsody in. Now let's start comparing it here with some IEMs. Actually, you know what, let's start straight away with the Mangird top 6, number 6. There we go. I've normalized everything at 500 hertz. Okay, and let me just change the color here at the top. Okay, there we go. You would think that the top in this setting and the Chopin in this setting, the 1111 setting, they would sound the same in terms of the bass, and no, they don't. They are touches of the same sort of quality, but the quantity is different. And I would say that the quantity is actually more, if I'm now being more fair towards this comparison, the quantity is more like this. Okay, so if it's more along the lines of me having the first two switches on, and then the second two switches off. This is more kind of more balanced out in terms of quantity of bass and and slam compared to the Mangird top, as opposed to having all the switches up. And why? Because one is an 8mm driver doing that, and another one is a 10. So displacement, that is important. The driver in the Mangird top, I will assume it is a better quality driver, and that's why we have a better bass in terms of quality. It's extra cleaner. It's more resolving. It's got more authority. Okay, and then the upper range, the mids to up mid and treble. Everything is just, although graphically you wouldn't think that, okay, because it's got still a little bit of ups and downs and so on, but it's just a little extra smoother, and that balance struck between that part of the spectrum and the part before just makes for a sound which is very balanced in the top. A lot of fun, maybe not the most detailed, especially when you consider it's $500+, but it's a lot of fun. It is truly a lot of fun. Okay, compared now to the Cara. Take away this out. Let's put now the Cara. This is the Cara. The Cara, you could say maybe the more proper setting that I should have used should have been the 000 setting, this setting, as opposed to the one that I did use. Why? Because it simulates again a little bit that sub bass drop and so on. And funny enough, in this setting, there is a driver size difference, 10 versus 8. But I feel that the 8mm in the Rhapsody is a better quality driver than the 10 that they used in the Cara. The Cara, actually, let me just do one thing here that I've just picked up on. The Cara, yes, the Cara should be there. That's more correct. The bass quality overall of the Cara is not superior, definitely not superior to the Rhapsody, and the quantity as well, no. Okay, so that's the Cara out of the way. Sorry. This one here. Next, I'm going to show you the Thieaudio, and the Thieaudio is by comparison very well. It's an excellent sounding IM. It sounds amazing. A lot of similarities here in the way that the one is executed and the other, but the lack of mid bass is very evident. Even if I use the setting that I did most of the listening in, which is this setting. Okay, I did most of the listening, and I actually compared the most of the time the Thieaudio in this setting with the Rhapsody. So the Rhapsody's got all the switches up, and you can see same sort of bass curve, everything a little bit more energetic. That's the basic biggest difference. The only thing that the Thieaudio is able to beat the Rhapsody in is being just that little extra smoother. Okay, a little bit more polished in its execution, because it's definitely hasn't got more bass. The bass on the Rhapsody is definitely more fun, And the mids and the highs, it's just a question of execution, of polish, of that. That's it. That's because otherwise, no, it doesn't. It's a really hard one. That's why I said that one would be a good starting point if you cannot afford the binary. So if you get the Chopin, you get the Rhapsody, and then you can upgrade to the Chopin, keeping in mind that upgrade will bring with it a little bit less bass quantity, not quality. The quality, okay, I can still say that it's evenly matched, but the quantity, definitely you'll notice differences. Okay, next one, Penon Dome. There we go. Again, the dome, the most fair comparison for that will be with the setting, which is 1100. This is the more correct and more fair setting. Again, more normalized 500 hertz. Honestly, in terms of the bass, very equal to each other. Just a little extra polish, a little bit extra incisiveness on the dome, and the mids again very evenly matched. The difference being that the dome is got more polish, more charisma, but the difference isn't monumental. It's not a difference that you can outright say that no, it justifies the price difference. Look, the truth is this, and I said it before, this is a very well tuned IM. And if it was to have another brand's name on it, it would easily be $200+. Easily. I have absolutely no doubts about it. I mean, let me put it to you this way. The way that they've been able to obtain this sort of performance and at this price point, you ask me, Akros, does it make sense to go and buy, for example, a CVJ May over this? And I'll tell you, no, it doesn't. And you guys know that I like the CVJ May. Oh, Akros, is the Thruthears Zero or the Zero Red worthwhile buying over this? No, it isn't. No, they aren't. This is a better IM. Is the, let's say, the Fudu, the Tanchjim Fudu, a better IM than this? No, it isn't. This is a better buy. The same thing applies to the Sono, the 7 hertz. And all of those IMs are IMs that I reviewed and I praised and I gave them the due credit that they deserved. But the reality is, CCA, KZ, with the Rhapsody, they have hit the nail on the head. 200%. This is a fantastic IM. End of story. There is no one that can come and give me an argument that say, oh, but because this. Well, show me an IM that at $50 or $40, you can even pick it up now during this period. Show me another IM that at $40 offers the versatility in terms of tuning, and a versatility which doesn't come at the cost of losing driver coherence or uniformity between the sound and so on. Show me a driver that can do that is well built, and that it's fun. It's not sterile sounding. Show me one. If you can show me one at the same price that outright, I'm not even going to say beats it, but equals it, then I'll eat my words. And you're not going to be able to. This is definitely one of those IEMs that has come and kind of shook. And it's gonna shake a little bit the market. It is, and whether we like it or not, that's the truth. It happened to come from CCA. It could have come from any other brand, but the reality, it came from CCA, and it costs what it costs. Next. This is the Yanyin Moonlight. Okay, the Yanyin Moonlight, I compared it not with this, but with this setting here of the Rhapsody. I compared it with, let me just change the color of the Yanyin. Let me make it red. Okay, I compared the Yanyin Moonlight with the setting of the Rhapsody with all the switches up. In terms of mids and treble, yes, definitely the Moonlight is better, unquestionable. Bass, yes, it's better. It's also better. It's a cleaner bass. That's the biggest thing here on these more expensive IMs, like I mentioned earlier. You get a cleaner sound in terms of certain parts of the spectrum. Okay, it's not only just on the mids and the highs, like in the cheaper ones that I was comparing it with before. Is it worth 20 times the price? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Next, the Thieaudio Hype 2. Okay, Thieaudio. There we go. The only issue that I had with the Hype is that this area, like I said, between 4.5 and 7 more or less, for me, for my ears, it just comes out a little bit too much for me. And I prefer overall the smoothness I get in the Rhapsody. Bass wise, yes, it's although they are similar in quality, quantity, the bass of the hype is superior. It is better. I mean, it's a much better bass. It is, and it's noticeable in the way that the rumble happens and that presence and the authority of the bass. It's definitely noticeable. It's one of the easier. The Hype 2 is one of the easier ones to justify its price. Okay. The Hype 2 and I would say the Mangird Top are probably the easier ones to justify its price over the Chopin. The Moonlight is very hard to justify its price increase. The Penon, the Dome, it is very much down to if you like that style of tuning, okay? Because the other thing, like I mentioned already before, we have an IEM here on the CCA, which the switches, they are doing their job so well that it enables you to kind of go and fetch all of these different styles of tuning, okay? Next, okay, so let me just recap. I've shown you the Thieaudio Hype 2, I've shown you the Yanyin Moonlight, I've shown you the Penon Dome, I've shown you the CCA binary, I've shown you the Tanchjim, I've shown you the Top. Oh yes, I was forgetting. I haven't shown you is the Nova, and I haven't shown you the Performer 5. The Nova. Let's go here for the Nova. Number 17. Nova. Again, when I compare it with the 1111 setting, honestly, very difficult. The Nova is one of the hardest ones for me to say no, it's better, because it's just in the mids and in the highs, upper mids and highs, where it's a little bit extra. That's it, because it's not in the bass, it's not in the majority of the mids. It's just that transition there from the upper mids to the highs where the Nova edges it out. And I guess if you do a mod that a fellow reviewer did, which is you put a 500 grade filter here, you are able to drop this a little bit more. I guess then it will be the same. I actually didn't go to the trouble of doing it. Maybe I'll do it and then make another addition to this video, but I'm sure that if you do that, then you will get the same sort of vibe. And the Nova doesn't have the same sort of space as the Rhapsody can have. And then finally, the Performer 5. Although you see this difference here, it's not really that different. They are more similar actually than what the graph here would indicate. And I guess that similarity or that more equalness comes down to the fact that in terms of the frequency band of operation for the Performer 5, it's a tighter frequency band of operation. So we're talking about everything is within 7 dBs more or less, while with the Rhapsody everything is within close it there, everything is within that that 10 dB window more or less, like I had mentioned. So 10 dB in the setting that I used to do the majority of the comparisons with. Anyway guys, look, this is the truth. The CCA is a very good IM. It has been very well tuned. The build is not really an issue. It never really is a problem with KZ or CCA. The build is always very proper, very, very commendable. There's really not much that I can fault it on, because at this price point you can't really fault it much. Okay, you could argue, but the accessories, this and that, blah. Okay, fine, the accessories, but going to what matters, because I've heard many people saying, they should sell just the IEMs alone, and then people worry about cables and so on and so forth. Well, okay. Talking purely in terms of the sound, and based on the Rhapsody that I got, not on the Rhapsody that maybe some other reviewers got, because like I mentioned, a fellow reviewer, his Rhapsody was everything in the bass was within a window of 6 dB, so it was, I would assume, much leaner than my one. My particular Rhapsody, and the way it measured and the way it sounds to me, it keeps up in the bass with like some of these big boys that I've got here. No problems. Yes, ultimately it will lose. Ultimately, it starts showcasing its weaknesses. But with the cheaper ones, with the Nova, with the Performer 5, with the Cara, with the binaries and so on, the trading of blows there is very, very solid. very, very solid, and it's becomes very hard and very difficult for me to outright just say no. Get a binary, or get a Performer 5, or get a Nova, or get a Cara, because it's miles better than the Rhapsody. It isn't. They aren't. Okay. When we are into then the more expensive ones, the Hype, the Mangird, the Penon, the Dome, the Moonlight, yes, you start seeing that they are better. You start listening and hearing that they are significantly better in specific areas, and the way they come across and everything as well. It's just then the question of, is the price justified or not? All right, guys, as always, like and subscribe, and any questions, please feel free to ask. Take care now. Bye bye.